Hey, what's going on, Miguel Lloyd? And so, man, I met this brother. First of all, man, I'd known about this cat for a minute. One of my favorite shows for years has been Unsung. Man, it represents the culture. So many stories that you guys have checked out on TV One. But this brother right here on the screen with me is P. Frank Williams. P. Frank Williams has been in this game for a minute. If there's anybody in hip hop, I just saw a picture you posted recently. I don't fanboy with artists like that. Just out of respect. But I see you with Buster, and I see you with some people. Meet my man P. Frank Williams. What's going on, man? How you feeling?
Oh, I'm blessed, man. Thank you for having me. I'm in the building, and I
Yeah.
appreciate the love. Unsung. Everybody loves Unsung.
Man, Unsung Man was one of my favorite. I always go back. That's one of those things I'll binge it on the weekend and will learn something new about some of my favorite artists all the time. We ran into each other at the Revolt Summit here recently, and I was just like, "Well,
Yeah,
I got to meet this cat." I know it's one good thing about social media. We know each other by social, but we don't know each other, and it was great to make that face to face connection,
of
man.
course. Yeah, you mean
So
it's a connector, but still, it's not like real life, right?
it's not like real life, so it's good to make that. So let's start from the beginning. You are from Oaktown. There you go, Oakland, California. Big Warriors fan, of
Yeah,
course.
and
Um,
Raider Nation. Not this year, but usually Raider Nation.
so y'all still Raider Nation today in Vegas?
I
Y'all,
mean,
y'all still going strong?
he's my bottom B. I got to stick with her. Lloyd. I had her from the beginning. I can't go ahead and give up now.
No
You know.
question, no question.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go back to hip hop. You started off in this hip hop game early on, when
Mhm.
you started seeing the media started being a part of the game, and you worked for the Source magazine, which no album was rocking, no album was respected if you didn't get them 4 or 5 mics in the Source. Tell us about
Right.
early on in your career working with the Source.
It's good. I think everything is interconnected. Before I became a television and film producer, I did indeed. I was a journalist. Some
Hmm.
people know that at the LA Times, and then I started freelancing for the Source in the early '90s. So then '95, I wrote Easy E's cover when he passed away, and
Hmm.
Tupac when he died, Suge, Death Row, Dr. Dre, all of that. Wild Times, Bad Boy Death Row,
Yeah,
Rockefeller. It was a wild time in the culture. So I saw the transition.
yeah.
Hip hop, the Source had conquered a space where nobody was really doing. They were talking from inside the culture out. And I think that, I was always a B-boy, lunchtime, early '80s, I had the cardboard, so I was already ready. I just was in the white corporate structure, but I
Yeah.
still love the hip hop part of it.
Yeah, because you went to San Diego State undergrad and what, Columbia grad school, or was it the other way around?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, Columbia. I just came from New York City. Yeah, but no, yeah, I'm blessed to have been going on both coasts.
yeah,
East and West. I think that's one
yeah.
thing I've been fortunate about to go to school in Southern California, but also stay very heavy in the New York East Coast world. So it's cool.
Yeah, so we're about the same age, and I remember coming out of school. I went to Norfolk State. I was a broadcast journalism major, and
Mhm.
and so they would always tell you, at that point, it wasn't really they call it was no real room in this hip hop and this music to really do real journalism, right? But you
Right.
early on, you said, no, that's not the case, because I think I saw in your bio you actually went to Greece and you did some work
Yeah, I
on the
covered
general
Olympics. I
market side.
produced the Olympics. Yeah, I produced the Olympics, the 2004 Olympics on NBC, and Bob Costas and a bunch of folks for that, and saw that at this up close, and we ended up winning an Emmy for that. So I've been blessed to be able to kind of I think keep one foot in mainstream Hollywood or
Yeah,
mainstream journalism, and then still kind of stay with the more corporate street side of the
yeah,
thing. You know
right.
what I mean? I was there with Bone Thugs and Tupac, and I think it's just I think the energy of growing up in the Bay Area informed me in a way I think is a little bit different than the most
Hmm.
traditional journalists. Because even though I have the journalism degrees and did all of the writing and all of that, I still was like in the music very heavy because I grew up
Hmm.
in Oakland around it in real
Hmm.
life and grew
Hmm.
up around the Black Panthers. So I got it kind of me and Tupac, I guess, in some ways are very similar in coming from that background. So I've been fortunate to kind of like print journalism, magazine, newspapers, award shows, TV shows, documentaries, movies. So long as I'm telling a story, I think that what I've been doing, since the early '90s or so.
So early on in your career, hip hop wasn't mainstream. It was getting there, right? The
Hmm.
records were starting to sell and it was starting to get the respectability, but it was still a little bit of a fight. And so, talk to us about how you see the transition where now, hip hop is not on the side station, only on black radio. It's now mainstream. It is pop culture. It's dominating the culture right now. You've been in this game a long time. Tell us about seeing that evolution and how the game has
Well,
moved.
it's so wild to think about, me being in the room at the Grammys in the early '90s. when they wouldn't even allow the hip hop artists to really be on stage. You know, Method
Mm,
Man infamously won for "You're All I Need to Get By with Mary," and he wasn't even he was boycotted because I was with him that night. So
mm,
we weren't excluded. They thought it was a fad. You know, they didn't really people don't understand hip hop was like played on the radio. They would do the song on certain R&B stations to take the rap out,
I
you know, for
hated that.
many years. And if you
Still
think
hate
about
that.
a lot of
Yeah.
the Atlanta stations up until the mid early 90s didn't play hip hop. I want to make sure we don't forget this is not that long ago, you
Yeah.
know, and I understand the censorship from the media, you know, see Dolores Tucker, they were trying to
Hmm.
outlaw it, you know, freedom of expression, Luke. So I want to make sure people know that there was a time when LL Cool J and Nicki Minaj weren't hosting the Grammys and the big award shows, and all of the pop stars were, you know, Young Thug and you know what I mean, Lil Baby. It was a time
Absolutely.
when we were outside, you know, because hip hop, by the way, and I'm not sure if everybody realizes it, is an outsider culture, meaning like outsiders created hip hop. Like the punk rock kids and us, that's where we were together because they wouldn't let us in the club in the
Hmm.
70s. And so it's birthed from that world. And so it's just crazy to see how it's the predominant culture on the planet. But I think that the early 2000s, Bad Boy, I mean, sort of like Rockefeller,
Hmm.
I
Death
think
Row.
like T.I., all of those
Hmm.
Cash Money, you know,
Yep.
you can see what they've done. The whole bling bling era has taken it to where we are now. And I think, you know, you got to shut up Puff, people like that who took it not just to the music, but the fashion, the
Hmm.
culture. You know what I mean? Everything is
Hmm.
now part of the hip hop thing. And me who worked in television and film, you know, I would have never be thought that some of the stuff that I put on TV today in the 90s, if you'd have told me that was on TV, I'd been like,
Right.
what? Right.
Right. Right. You hear We TV, you think more of a women's network. You don't really think of something that Hip Hop Homicide is, which we'll get into Hip Hop Homicides here in just a second, which is your latest project. Everybody wants to know you were around in the business when the East Coast West Coast thing was popping off. From a journalist standpoint, how was the energy? Because you were in the clubs, you were interviewing these guys, you were in Cali. You know, how did that feel during that time? Because a lot of people say it was supposed to be just business, but it went way beyond business. Obviously, when we lost Tupac and
It
Biggie.
was a very heavy time. You know, I think that I think back to it with a bated breath, like we made it through, and a lot of people didn't make it through.
Hmm.
Obviously, the Tupac and Biggie of it escalated to something that I don't think it ever would have got to that place. Actually, being there, you know, I know what it's like to go to Can-Am where they were recording. The energy in there was very heavy. Can-Am is a studio where Death Row would record, and
Hmm.
I think it's Sherman Oaks or
Hmm.
whatever. And obviously, I produced the shows Who Killed Tupac on A&E with Ben
Hmm.
Crump, which I
Hmm.
produced and actually in, and then Who Shot Biggie and Tupac
Yeah.
on Fox. So I've obviously explored and went down the rabbit hole. I just think at the time you had two young men who were trying to figure themselves out. And
Yeah.
because I know the history of Bach and Biggie, and you know, actually met them, it's something that escalated and got out of control, and too many people started changing sides, and it was dangerous. To your point, going back and forth, you know, going back from New York to L.A. a lot, and obviously being there the night of the thing, and then you know being at the hospital when Tupac got shot the next day. Um, it was a very sad time. You know, I remember at the source us kind of adding to, and I feel some responsibility because you know we wrote sort of inflammatory cover lines on the source. Some of those things to, I don't think that we were feeding into it, but I
Hmm.
do think that the media played a part in how it elevated. You know, and I think that we were young too. You got to think they're
Right.
23, you know, 24 years old. We're the same age, so it's
Right.
like we were trying to figure out how to tell the story from our culture. But it was a sad time, and you know, an unfortunate thing, which I don't think is good, is that obviously based on what we'll talk about the show I'm doing, not much has changed in terms of how we treat each other and how we view Black life, and how hip hop can be both a beautiful thing and it can make you a target. So I think that's one of the lingering things that happened from Biggie and Tupac in the whole '90s, Bad Boy, Death Row, and took a lot of lives. You know, obviously Suge's in jail, and Puff, Dre, and Dog. You know, they've taken it, but they had to go through a lot to get to that, and a lot of people died, and
Yeah.
it was unfortunate. You know.
So fast forward to today. You've got this new show, Hip Hop Homicides. Talk to us about the genesis of this. Now, obviously, the main thing is the story. Is my God, we're talking in the last 4 or 5 years. You know, we've had Nipsey Hussle, and we've had P&B Rock, and we've had a lot of artists. I'm not in the culture like I was 20 years ago, and now I'm hearing about these artists that you guys are going to be doing stories about here in the next, what is it, 8 episodes, 8 or 9 episodes. Um, but how did y'all decide? How did y'all come up with this idea? Say, hey, we need to follow this. You and 50 and and the group that's put it out.
Yeah, no, Hip Hop Homicides developed in a really organic way. I think 50, who I spoke with when I was, looking to get the job and talking about it, he talked about it coming from his relationship with Pop Smoke, who, if
Mm-hmm.
you look at Pop Smoke, he kind of sounds like him, looks like him.
Mm-hmm.
50 was his mentor. I
Mm-hmm.
think 50 was shocked and heartbroken when he got killed. And he thought that some of the facts were fishy. And so out of that, I think he approached Mona, was like, hey, we need to do a show about dead rappers. I think Mona was like, what? What are you talking about? So, they had the idea, a little bit of a sizzle. I took it, helped develop it, make it full to the 8 episodes that we did. And when I shot it, that's my job. I'm Phil Jackson. If you want to
Yeah,
look at the
you're the
Lakers,
coach. Yeah.
yeah, I'm the coach. And so I just, make sure Kobe and Shaq run the triangle and get it done. And so that was the genesis. It came from a real place. And obviously 50 is a gunshot survivor. So these kind of
Mm-hmm.
stories aren't something that he didn't live through in real life. And so in choosing the 8 episodes, it's some that like Pop Smoke and Still Some Questions. XX Tentacion out of Florida, which was a very sad case. A young man got murdered. He went and got some money and they killed him. He was getting a motorcycle. Mo 3 in Dallas. They ran up on this young brother on the freeway, and we got behind the headlines and to tell you what really happened. And we actually took a kind of a look back at some of the older stories. Soldier Slim, who a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
know from Slow Motion, that song. We went to New Orleans. His
Mm-hmm.
story is still an unsolved murder, by the
Mm-hmm.
way. And another young lady, Magnolia Shorty, whose murder was solved, but we still kind of looked into the why.
Yeah.
So I think the show is really about trying to peel back the layers. It's like
Yeah.
30% biography, 30% investigation,
Yeah.
and 30% sort of like love letter to them through
Yeah.
their family members and learning more about them. So that
Yeah.
was my goal, bro, just to fucking humanize our people and make sure that, we aren't one-dimensional portraits in the media as these wild animals out of control. As a person who comes from the culture, a lot of these situations are not just about the artist, because people talk about, is it the artist's fault? Is it the music? It's environmental, it's cultural, historical. There's a lot of things that go into why these murders in hip hop happen. They aren't just about some dudes with too many chains on,
Right.
bling bling or whatever.
Right. Let's run the trailer real quick, and we'll finish up that part of the conversation on the other side.
Pop Smoke.
King Von, Magnolia Shorty was gunned down yesterday.
As of 2022, there's been a staggering number of rappers who've been murdered. And more than half of those cases are unsolved.
How many times do we have to see this in hip-hop?
If pop stars were being killed at this rate, there would be an uproar about it.
They'd be at war.
I'm your host, Van Lathan, and together with executive producer 50 Cent, we're here to bring these cases into the light.
I was with him. I could see everything.
My daddy was a known gangster in the city.
You don't ever get curious?
I'm gonna keep that to myself.
They don't care where you're at. When I catch you, I'm gonna kill you.
The rumors that they had about this guy, that he was a killer. It was a hit from jail.
Everybody was just pointing fingers because nobody had the answer.
You saying that you got money off her life insurance and then put it on the street?
Yes.
Who would climb to the second floor to find the locked door?
You seem pretty sure that somebody was paid to kill him now.
Yeah, I do.
He became a target.
We're here to find the truth.
These guys are rappers. They're #1 targets.
They're dying while living their dreams.
That's what happens when you mix street with music.
Hip Hop Homicides premieres Thursday, November 3rd on WeTV. Stream every moment Mondays on All Black.
Man, I watched the first episode, Pop Smoke, and I felt for the young brother that was his man. I just felt for it. I felt his energy. The young lady who was in the room. I don't know. So, but the story, but that's you guys.
The lifestyle. When you go behind the curtain, you're like, oh damn, this is. Sometimes people don't understand how simple actions that you do or the people that you put yourself around can cost you your life, or you got to be careful about the decisions you make.
Well, you guys did a great job, man. You put a lot of questions out there. You gonna let the market decide what they and then let the police do their job.
I mean, I think for us, one thing I'll say is that a lot of times our investigations, because I was a reporter in real life, like in LA Times, I'm not like a fake journalist, blogger who just started blogging and didn't actually go do some of the work.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of times they don't do the investigation in our situations, and you could say another N dead, right? Another ninja dead. Why would they
Right.
care?
Right.
So, I'm sure they were probably happy that Tupac got murdered, right? So, I wanted to make sure that we did as much a real investigation and due diligence. Shout out to Van for that. Van, I think, is very conscious and a very inquisitive guy, and he represents the culture. Obviously, infamously with Kanye, he's not afraid to tackle real situations in real time. And so, us together, just sort of tag teaming through those things, we wanted to bring hopefully some closure to the families, but also there's questions. A lot of these cases have not been to trial. I want to make sure that the criminal justice system is working the same way that it would do in your family, your cousin, your hood friends, the same way with these guys. So we're hopeful that the show will help some people,
Yeah. Before we, I want to talk about the business aspect of it here shortly. But one thing, when PNB Rock was killed, there was a story that said that particular Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. I'm not from LA, so this was, to me, was news that particular chicken and waffles is owned by gangs, and that it's known in the community. People from LA don't go to that particular Roscoe's because it's known to be dangerous. It seems to me now I know of two off the top of my head, PNB Rock and Pop Smoke, who are both not from LA, were in LA and got killed in LA. And people are saying that's kind of starting to become a thing out there. Is there any truth to that? What's your take on those two questions?
Well, I think there is some fact to the fact that location has street-oriented people involved with it, and that neighborhood itself is that kind of situation. And I think if you're smart and you keep your head on a swivel, you know where to go and not to go, and you got to be smart. So I do think that there's some truth to that. I don't think that LA is any different than anywhere else, but I do think that the one difference is the gang life in Los Angeles, which obviously killed Biggie and obviously killed Tupac, by the way, who was murdered by a gang member. And Biggie, whether or not he was directly murdered, it's all connected. Mm-hmm. So LA is dangerous. You don't play around. I'm from the Bay Area. We have gangs, but it's more street oriented. And I lived in New York and Toronto and all over the country or whatever. And these dudes out here don't mess around. So that's one thing I will say. I don't think it's a thing necessarily. I think it's more the rapper has a target on their back in a way that I think you could have been, the dice game with Takeoff in Houston. You could have been Mo3 in Dallas. You could be XXXTentacion just going to get a motorcycle and somebody tracking you and saw you, you become a target. People, I don't know. It's just, and I think it's too the ostentatious lifestyle that people give off. And I think the jealousy and hate in social media has caused the clout chasing has increased this more. So when you ask me, is it LA? I'm like, no, it's an issue bigger than one city.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Last thing before we get out of here, man, you've been in this business for a long time. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out here. It's not as hard to get into the film and content creation business as it has been. And being here in the state of Georgia, where I am, and there's a lot of tax credits here. There's tax credits in different states and things. Tell us about why you believe, though, that a lot of people, especially creators, are making a lot of content here in Georgia from a business standpoint.
Well, shout out to Atlanta. I just left. I've been there like 15 times in the last few months, like year or whatever it is. I shot a show called Cop Watch America over there. I'm about police brutality, anti-police brutality activists. I shot a movie over there. I'm currently shooting a documentary about Freaknik there for a major streamer. So I've been in Atlanta and Georgia, and I think that it can double as New York or different Bay Area, whatever. It has like a good rate because they were like welcoming, and it feels like the Hollywood of the South. Mm-hmm. Tyler Perry set up a whole. Come on, Tyler Perry. All you got to do is look at what he did and see how Georgia and Atlanta, in particular, and even outside of the city, is valuable. I'm half the time I'm there, so I'm looking about moving. I got all kind of projects that I'm doing there, and I could go shoot something for $650 and go sell it for $2 million. Everybody get their money back, investors, and it's a good thing. So shout out to Georgia. Yeah, I'm with it. Like, I'm coming back in a week and a half. I see y'all. See me next summer with Freaknik. I'm coming out with it. Y'all gonna be me and Jermaine Dupri, so it should be good.
Man, that's gonna be dope, man. Well, I do appreciate your time, brother. I know you got a lot going on. You made time for me like you said you would. So I really appreciate it.
Okay.
And
yeah, shout out to you and all the Black entrepreneurs in Georgia and people trying to invest in their dreams and their vision. I didn't think that I was going to be a television producer. It just sort of happened. Now I own my own production company and I also work for other people. So I can say one bit of advice is, make sure you keep your business. You can maybe have some contracts or whatever, but you stay, you leave your job, just be smart, because I don't think there's been a better time in American history as an entrepreneur of any color to go out and pursue your dream and do whatever you want. And so shout out to Georgia and Atlanta in particular, because everybody out there got their hustle on.
Yeah, we all making it happen. All right, man. P. Frank Williams, super producer. We have our super producer on my show, Life on Circuit Radio, but you know, you the super producer on the Hollywood side, man. So you guys may not have known this guy before, but you know him now. Make sure you look him up, and you'll be amazed at what
Hip Hop
you're going to
Homicides,
connect to.
Thursdays at 9 p.m. on WeTV, streaming on All Black on Monday 8 a.m. So y'all give us those streams and those views. We good.
All right, brother. I appreciate you, man. God bless.
All right, peace, yo.